Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the now NA Ladder Heroes March Monthly Finals. My name is Fear Dragon, and hopefully you guys are sticking around from the EU Ladder Heroes Monthly Finals if you're watching this live on the stream. But yeah, we are just going to be hopping straight into it. Now, I'm going to play a bit of a video because I'm sure a lot of people tuned in a bit later. Maybe you're not super familiar with how Ladder Heroes works. It's a Blizzard-sponsored event, but I have a video that will explain it a little bit better than I probably would if I just try to do it right now. Give you some visuals as well. Welcome to your introduction to Ladder Heroes. Ladder Heroes is a Blizzard-sponsored competition that is constantly ongoing on the North American and European ladders. Here's how it works. Players register for Ladder Heroes with unshared accounts that use their real names. No barcodes allowed. We track the top players on the North American and European ladders over on the website www.ladderhero.ex, which updates every minute with the most recent standings. Every Saturday, the top 6 Grandmaster players in each region earn themselves a bit of cash totaling up to $150. The top 20 earn themselves points that go toward qualifying for the monthly finals. At the end of the month, a $400 monthly finals is held with the top 12 point holders to crown the king of the ladder for that month. And that's Ladder Heroes in a nutshell. Good luck out there. Okay, so that's the quick and dirty rundown of how Ladder Heroes works. Now, for those who are coming in from the EU Ladder Heroes Monthly Finals, you should be familiar. This is going to be a 12-player bracket. Now, 4 players are seeded in one round if they did especially well on the ladder in the past couple of weeks. And those 4 players are going to be True, Optimus, Peely, and Cham. So we got different representation all across the board. We got our Korean American that's staying in the United States. We have our European Optimus. We have our Kazakhstani Protoss player who lives in North America, is considered an American at this point, but technically from out of the country in Europe. And then we have Cham, who's like our Latin American representative. So we got a huge diversity in our top 4, as well as, of course, a Protoss, 2 Zergs, and a Terran. So pretty nice even game. Thank you, David Kim, for all of your service. And of course, in the round of 12, we currently have Jonso versus Jens, also known as Jarpy for those who are not familiar with his new name. Masa versus Sanagi. Semper versus GameTime, which, as you may have guessed down below, was the game that we're going to be hopping into. And Namshar versus Jim Rising. I was tempted to grab Namshar versus Jim Rising, but I've done enough ZVZs today, and I kind of want to hop into a different matchup. It's going to be a Terran versus Zerg. Also worth noting that there is exactly 1 Protoss in this bracket. It is Peely. I'm going to double check that I'm not going crazy on this. But yeah, it is literally just Peely as the Protoss representative. But the kind of funny thing about North America is that Protoss aren't very common, but they are pretty strong. The ones that exist are just absolutely top players like Puck, Peely, Neeb, like the really top players. And then there's this huge gap, and then there's the rest of the Protoss, it feels like. But, alright, talking about this first match, we're going to be hopping into Abyssal Reef, Semper versus GameTime. Especially if you're more familiar with the European scene and not the North American scene. These two guys are both really badass. I think more people are familiar with Semper, maybe, representing Team OSC Root, the Canadian Terran player from Montreal. Has won $10,000 across his career so far, and has done pretty well for himself. He's going to be going up against GameTime. Now, Semper is known for his drop play, and GameTime is the up-and-comer in a lot of ways. He hasn't gotten any huge tournament victories yet, but in my opinion, he is my pick for the big breakout player of 2017. So I'm interested to see how he's going to do in this. But here we go. We're moving into it. Oh, well, thank you so much, guys. Spine down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the yellow Zerg player representing Sloth Esports Club. Give it up for GameTime. And his opponent. Spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the purple Terran player from OSC Root. Put your hands together for Semper. Now, I briefly mentioned this, but Semper is known for his drop play. And the kind of unfortunate thing is that lately, drop play hasn't exactly been what you'll see a lot out of Semper in Terran versus Protoss and Terran versus Terran even a little bit. Terran versus Terran's a little bit weird because everybody goes for drop play, but it's like Doom drop play. But in this particular matchup, Semper has just been relentless with his drop play. And the cool thing about it is that he's an aggressive Terran player, but in a different way than many other kind of like 1 base or 2 base all-in aggressive players would be. Semper, since basically the beginning of his kind of breakout performance in the North American scene, has been this player that really, really hits his stride when he's able to pull his opponents apart with harassment in a lot of different locations, which may just sound like typical Terran to you, but he is just fantastic at positional play, which gets me excited because Abyssal Reef is probably one of the most positional-based maps in the map pool right now. There's so many interesting dynamics that end up happening on this map. But to talk a bit about game time, he is going to be going for, it looks like a hatch gas pool. Pretty standard opening. He is a little bit harder, I think, to peg in terms of playstyle. So there's some players out there will definitely say that Game Time is a bit of a cheesy guy. I think that he can be cheesy, but I've also seen him play some pretty solid macro games. So overall, I feel like he's a fairly well-rounded player. One of the big difficulties I think Game Time has been suffering is that he's been able to do really well, take out really good opponents in early rounds of tournaments, but he's had a lot of trouble closing it out. And I think has even had a couple of mindset difficulties and just kind of figuring out how to play at his best. That's one of the biggest things he's been struggling with, and had a not so great performance during WCS and a Challenger, where he did drop out in the first round of both the winners bracket and the losers bracket. But again, this guy has so much potential. I think that once he figures those kinds of things out, we're going to be seeing a lot more of him. Reaper is going to be moving its way into the main base, being very, very annoying. No Zerglings over here, just the Queen. But that Queen's going to be more than enough to prevent any kind of drones from going down. Semper is mostly just kind of getting some scouting information out. He gets out his Hellions from the reactor. He throws up the starport. And ooh, got the tech lab there as well. Those Banshee openings have been really coming back the past 3 weeks in terms of popularity. There's a good period of time where there'd be a mix-in of different Terran players. Some would still go for the Medivacs to join in and kind of poke forward with some Marines. Some players would still go for the Widowmine drops. Some players would even go for a Liberator. Actually, Semper himself was one of the players that would oftentimes go straight into the Hellion, Reactor Hellion, and then just make a Liberator with that starport immediately, not even getting out of Banshee or Medivac or Raven. And it would throw a lot of Zerg players off guard. But looks like Semper's kind of joined in with the rest of the Terran community, going for that Banshee first. No cloak on the way, so game time's going to be okay without having a super fast lair. Actually, no, so, sorry, he never ended up getting up a Banshee, so it was just straight tech up into Raven, and that's a really common thing. I think this might even just be a map choice thing. Abyssal Reef is really, really strong for that Raven play, but I'll talk about that in a second. Looks like the Hellion's able to push that Queen pretty far off a creep, but not quite able to finish the job. Most of the Zergons have gone down, though, and that may give Semper confidence. Poke up the ramp, but realizes, yeah, it's going to be a futile effort. The big reason why the Raven has been so common on this map, by the way, is just because of this area right here. Natural expansion is so easy to continuously auto-turret harassment, unless the Zerg player goes for Ling Bling Muta, you just never ever end up cleaning up that Raven. It will theoretically be there for almost the entire game, but ooh, this is interesting. He goes to the Raven and then goes for a Banshee with that tech lab, so making the most of the tech lab. Kind of like that decision. Looks like 2 workers going down to the auto-turret harassment. 4 workers end up falling. And this is the funny thing, is that you might think, oh, well, the Spore Crawler there, he'll push back the Raven. No, the Spore Crawler probably never ends up killing the Raven. In fact, it may get 1 or 2 shots off every so often. But even if the drones get pulled with perfect reaction time from game time, he still should end up losing at least 2 workers, because that Raven auto-turret just does so much damage. And, yeah, there we go. More, drones dying. It looks like just getting roasted over in... No, oh, sorry. The Raven moved over to the main base, I think. Auto turrets killing 3 or 4 more workers. Up to 6 worker kills. And we have the Spire coming out. This, I don't know if this is a reaction from game time, because he was already pretty heavy invested into the Roach tech. Well, I say heavy invested. He only has 6 Roaches out. Now 5, because I guess he has 1 roasted over on the north side. Semper, of course, grabbing a 3rd, but... this is kind of interesting. I wonder how this is going to play out. There's no Baneling Nest or anything down for game time. So normally you'd see the Ling Bling Muta style. And really quickly, I need to actually respond to something. Sorry, Namshar is trying to finish up, looks like a series in the Proxy Tempest final, so I just need to let him know. That he is okay to finish that up. He just has one game left over. Should be fine. And I think Maso is also... Maso is also a little bit concerned, but it looks like a drone roasting in that. Oh, the Hellions actually getting a ton of damage done right now. There may have also been some auto harassment somewhere. These Hellions killing so many workers though, way more than I anticipated. I think the Raven must have gone in. Yeah, it's low on energy. There definitely was some auto harassment. Do apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. But GameTime still is, despite losing 21 workers, he actually has a decent worker count. And now the Mutalists are about to be popping out. Only 2 on the way right now, but that's going to be enough to clean up the Raven at least. That's kind of a nice snag. 4th expansion being taken, but Semper landed his 3rd expansion on the later side. So I don't think it's a huge deal that that 3rd is a bit late as well. Taking a look at upgrades. Seems like GameTime has a really nice lead. Look at this. Oh, sorry. Wait, I'm mixing it up. Combat Shields is the one that's a bit further away. So it's going to be pretty even on both sides. It looks like one final auto turret thrown down before the Raven gets cleaned up. Bit of a kind of weird back and forth game. Like, Semper keeps coming in with this harassment. GameTime just kind of out-drones the harassment and has played extremely passive. But this is the first big push in. Semper is going to look to try and get some damage done. He's pushing in with all of his units on one particular side. Going to try and get a cancel on this hatchery. He gets very low on health. It very well may be canceled. These Ravagers cannot fight against that. And Sejavuga Hoax is still a very good ways away from finishing up. So off of creep, GameTime cannot engage against this army. Oh my god, he's going to try for it anyways. Semper gets some pretty decent splits off. Snipes off some of those Banelings. And the Banshee also adding in some extra DPS. Semper looking really scary right now, even leading up even supply. Gotta be careful. Picks up his units before too many of the Banelings detonate on his Marines. He's gonna be able to back out of there, but did lose a handful of his core units. Doesn't have a Cyclone or Siege Tanks or anything else in the mix. More of these Mutas, though, are gonna be popping out now. I guess he now has, what, about 10 Mutas gonna be popping out? That's gonna be enough to snipe off Medivacs and everything, of which... Semper's kind of doesn't have a ridiculous number of, considering it's almost the 9-minute mark. Going for the Banshee, going for the Raven, kind of delaying things to get up the eventual reactor on that starport. It makes it a lot harder to potentially stim up, especially if these Mutas get any kills on these Medivacs, but focus firing on the Marines for now. Whoa, one Queen does get a pick off on a Medivac. That's pretty nice. But GameTime really lacking Banelings right now. He has 5 on the way. He's taken up further south 4th expansion that Semper has not scouted just yet. He's actually just throwing down the scans, thinking that he's maybe keeping GameTime locked down on 3 bases. He's going to poke in over here and see, okay, you still haven't taken that 4th expansion. I think he may have some game sense kind of tingling. No pun intended. But oh, Zerglin's going in. The Baneling connection's gonna be pretty good. There's a Widow Mine that goes off, but mostly doing friendly fire damage to those Marines. I think that GameTime may be able to push this back and clean this up, but he's running out of Zerglings. Those Banelings are the real only kind of saving grace. Mutas, though, kill off 3 Medivacs, reducing Semper down to just 2 again. And a big stim up as well. These Medivacs have some energy left over, but not a ton. GameTime also secures that 4th expansion with 1 upgrades finished up, 2 on the way. Pretty even for both of these players in terms of the upgrades. GameTime secures himself a lot more range. Oh god! Widow Mines get some pretty decent hits. 17 kills, 7 kills. Now this Widow Mine kill count is a little bit from earlier on as well. There's more Widow Mines coming in. Okay, last hit was pretty decent, killing off a few of those Banelings. There's not a lot of Zerglings left over, but Semper doesn't have a big army either. And the Mutas now focus firing down, or not focus firing down the Medivacs, but definitely get them a little bit lower on health. Semper has to be careful. He's continuing this aggression, this rally in of units, but he's not accomplishing as much as I think he maybe would have hoped. It's sort of weird, though. He's still leading up in army supply. GameTime is... been sitting on 66 workers and Semper has 72, and I feel like that's where a lot of the supply is. It's just he has an extra like 6 to 8 workers that normally a Terran player doesn't go up to this many. For the first time in this game, GameTime is able to get aggressive, but oh god, it's more just he attempts to get aggressive. He loses almost all of his Mutas, even losing another one to the Widow Mine. What is this? What am I even doing out here? Really rough losses, I think. Game Time was able to really put the pressure on the medevac count for Semper for a lot of this game. And that also shut down the potential for Semper to section off units and just float them over to the third or go over to the main base. This is a really far out expansion. It's a wide area to try and defend against drops and harassment from multiple different angles on this map, which Semper really finds his stride in. But I don't think that he's been able to this game because he keeps losing those medevacs. Looks like Game Time's going to be able to get a really good engagement over here. Widowmine's once again kind of betraying Semper. And oh, these medevacs are going to run out of boost pretty soon, but do make it back home in time. Not a lot of defenses back there. The next round of reinforcements comes in. There's a handful of Marauders in the mix, but here we go. This is what I was talking about. Game Time wholly out of position for the drop that comes in on the right-hand side with a double medevac. Mutas may be able to try and clean this up. A nice focus fire. Killed off one or two of the Mutas. Floats over to the main base. He's going to be sacrificing this, but at the same time, he gets the 4th expansion, and GG gets called. Semper starts the aggression, doesn't stop it for almost the entire game, and takes game number 1 in this round of 12 match. And holy cow, what a relentless game. That's the one way I can put that. And we hop into game number 2 now with a 1-0 lead for our Terran player. I mean, who was saying that Terran players cannot win games? In fact, there's only one Protoss player in the monthly finals. And there are 4 Terran players. There's Jarpy, Masa, Sanagi, and Semper. All of them here. Oh, apparently Namshar's opponent isn't here. Jim Rising. Oh no, Jim Rising. Did you oversleep again, man? Oh, Jim Rising was casting GSL, I think, at 3 in the morning for him. May have overslept. Well, that's kind of nice for Namshar. He gets plenty of time to finish the Proxy Tempest finals. I know Cham is here at least. I wonder if Jarpy made it, actually. That's a good question. Taking a look. Looks like Jarpy did not make it, or aka Jens. So, Jon Snow gets the bye over him, goes on to face off versus True. And Namshar gets the bye over Jim Rising, goes on to face off versus Cham. So those round of 8 matches are already happening. Gonna join into the lobby for game number 2 in this best of 3. And we didn't get too much of a chance because I think the game started up pretty quickly. Taking a look. Wow. Semper is 7-0 versus Game Time. And some of these matches are not that old. Like, all of them are over a month old. So I do give a little bit less credit to it. A little bit less value. But still. 2-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1. Across the last 5 series these guys have played, Semper is what? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-1. Now 14-1, by the way. This does not bode well. Game Time has got to come up with something to upset the balance of this game. Well, we get ready to hop into our next game. The map is going to be Newkirk Precinct. And True messaging me. Okay. Your match is ready now. Jon Snow had a walk over. I guess we're just waiting. I think Oli Moly managing a lot of the administrative work. Big thank you to Oli Moly, just seriously making this entire event possible, because if I were trying to admin and also trying to cast and also trying to deal with all the random messages I keep getting instead of to Oli Moly, I would go absolutely crazy. I cannon rush. A lot. Oh, Oli Moly lost her internet connection. Oh, she lost internet. Okay. So I guess, yeah, there she ends up getting kicked from the lobby. She finally disconnected. As soon as the players are ready, we're going to hop into game number 2. Players are ready. Newkirk Precinct going to be the map. Remember, this is a round of 12 match with the winner going on to face off versus Peely Peely, our only Protoss player around. Who's going to make it? Will it be the very, very strong Terran player who I think is a bit favored coming to this? It would be a lie to tell you otherwise, considering he is 13-1 versus his opponent. And Game Time, got to come up with some other way to upset. If he can make this work, that would be a huge victory for him. Even if he gets knocked out in the round of 8 then to Pili Pili, it's like, okay, I at least defeated an opponent I have never beat before in a tournament setting. And that always feels good. That always feels really nice. But okay, here we go. Spine down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the purple Terran player from OSC Root setting up 1-0 in this best of 3. Give it up for Semper. His opponent, spine down here on the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the yellow Zerg player from Sloth Esports Club. Put your hands together for Game Time. He needs your energy if he wants to make this upset work. So in that last game, I felt like Game Time was doing a really fantastic job. It just felt like he was winning almost all the engagements. But you get out of position once versus Semper, and that's when he starts doing devastating amounts of damage. It kills off a bunch of workers on the right-hand side of the map. He then goes for the 1-2 punch and moves in with the rest of the army as soon as Game Time moves into position to defend. And I think Game Time just immediately tapped out after realizing, yeah, I'm going to lose my 4th. I've already taken drone damage, and I'm going to lose my 4th expansion. And this, it was going to be really difficult for him to ever come back from that. And the kind of funny thing is, Semper is what I like to call a macro aggressive player. He's not like a no regrets or anything like that, or a Haas where he just kind of goes crazy with the aggression, and then, yeah, if you can beat it, hold it back, you'll be in a really nice spot. Semper's really scary because he will relentlessly aggress against you with like rallies across the map or drops hitting in from multiple different angles. But he has really good macro behind it. And that's really the scariest part about him, is that he just seems to have a relentless swarm of units moving across the map. And sometimes I will say, kind of funny enough, he's an aggressive Terran player that messes up, the weakness I would give to Semper is that he sometimes messes up his micro. And that's not something you say very often about a Terran player that's aggressive, right? Normally, if you think Terran player that's aggressive, you're thinking of him stimming around, stutter stepping, taking out stuff. And Semper has the capabilities of that, but he almost gets so caught up in his multi-pronged aggression that he ends up taking not so great engagements. And I feel like that's almost what we saw in that last game. But he just had good enough macro behind it with a 3cc and doing enough pressure to keep Game Time a little bit behind. Was able to bring that game back, especially with some good positioning. But okay, Reaper coming in over here. Not quite able to get any kills just yet, but just poking and prodding. Oh, Game Time. Fast layer coming out. This is going to be a 2-way Spire play. That is the big question. Well, looks like the Reaper hopping around, looking for some form of damage it can get done. Really, the big scout that it wants is, when is that 3rd finally going to come down? 3rd expansion does go down eventually with the 2-way Spire play, by the way, for those who are wondering. You can throw it down. It does come out much later, so that should sound alarm bells for Semper, but Zergling speed is finishing up very, very shortly. Game Time should have enough Zerglings to try and take out the Reaper, but the Reaper, oh, jumps down, not up. Oh, if he had gone into the main base, he would have got 100% confirmation on what he was up against. I mean, having a lair this fast, the only other thing it could be is like a Nidus Worm play, which I guess is still possible. There's still an Overlord here. There's only 2 Gas Geysers, actually. 3rd Gas Geyser now being taken, as well as the 4th. 3rd CC now finishing up over here for Semper. What is Game Time's plan? He actually doesn't have that much gas. Okay, there it is. There's the Spire. Well, the Hellions poking forward. I think at this point, Semper should already realize, yeah, there's no 3rd expansion. I am getting either 2-base Spired or I'm probably getting Nidus Wormed. One of the two. So he's going to start to probably start preparing some defenses. But these Hellions already getting some more damage. This was something that happened the last game, too. The Hellions got a lot more damage than they should have in conjunction with the Raven play. But I imagine Semper, does he have Engineering Bay? No Engineering Bay. Oh, he has 2 on the way now. Yeah. Starting up really late, though. I think the Engineering Bay is finished up pretty fast. He should have enough time to get up 1 missile turret, or missile turret in both mineral lines. He also opted to go into the additional barracks before the starport, just because of how, I guess, he saw his opponent was getting such a late 3rd. And look at this. This 3rd expansion is still not down because this 2 Hellions killed the drone. It was really going to delay Game Time's economy, and it forces Game Time to get even more damage done than he would have already had to do with a 2-base Spire play. And you do have to get some pretty good damage done with a 2-base Spire already. 4 mutas on the way. 5th muta, maybe 6th muta will get started. That's not a lot. For Game Time, or for Semper, who's already so prepared. Look at this, the missile turret in the main and the natural already finished up. Maybe, no, there's already a missile turret by the barracks as well. He can't even get a nice snipe off on Stim, which already finished up. Combat Shields is finishing up. This is, it looks like a gambit from Game Time that just is not paying off at all. Semper, though, is not exactly on a crazy number of workers. Even on 3cc, it's going to be a little bit of time before I think he feels safe establishing that third on the low ground. Especially on Newkirk Precinct, it can be a pretty wide open area. Lings, floods, and everything can make it difficult. But these mutas, I just don't see a world in which they get a lot of damage done. Not against someone as strong as Semper. Well, Ro12 being thrown down. Game Time is going to try and transition out into a, looks like a Roach Ravager, maybe Hydra play. And I guess the mutas at this point, they're just going to try and look for whatever damage they can get done. Even a supply depot, supply block your opponent, pick away, make them feel uncomfortable. Maybe make them make macro mistakes even is really nice. And keeping the units at home for Semper will also be good. Because again, Semper is an aggressive Terran player. He likes to make his opponent feel like they're on the defensive. And this is something that 2-base Spire, this is probably one of the big reasons why he went for 2-base Spire, is to try and make it so that Semper could not do that. But kind of funny enough, this is the golden opportunity, I think, for Semper to maybe move in with a medevac drop, because all of these mutas are back on this side of the map. Game Time is trying to play a little bit greedy, or was trying to play a little bit greedy behind this by getting up all of his upgrades and taking a 4th expansion and getting up his Roach tech. While the mutas just kind of buy space. And I think he's mostly gone away with it at this point. Played a little bit of catch up, but 3rd expansion is now going to get established. Mutas, yeah, they're not going to be able to find a whole lot. It's just the combination of this bunker, the Marines over at the front, even like some of the Widow Mines, and the missile turret. It's just a wall that these mutas cannot really get through. There's even a missile turret over here again to stop them from running the production line. There's like maybe this small little gap like right here where they could run in, but then there's no escape. There's even Liberators coming out, which are, I mean, they are nice for dealing with the mutas, but they're also pretty nice for dealing with just roaches. Once the Ravagers start popping, that's where the Liberators are going to find a little bit less effectiveness, but Semper dancing around. Has +1 missile attack, or not missile attack. +1 finished up on his Marines. Doesn't have any armor upgrades coming out for them. So that's one place that Game Time can get a bit further ahead. Looks like Muta's also catching some of those Marines. There's only 4 medevacs out. 5th medevac is also starting up, as well as the 6th one. Game Time wants to get something done over here. Kill off the Widow Mine is going to be a nice start. He's going to be able to get into the mineral line. Siege tank sieging up, but it's pretty far back. Only going to be able to whittle away at some of those roaches, but here we go. This is the big moment. Semper needs to defend over here. He's stemming on top of the rest of these units, saying you can't corrosive bile me if I'm this close. In fact, I think Semper has got this. Marines are dying slowly but surely, but the siege tank in the back really getting a lot of value. 18 workers do die, so Semper does not get out of there scot-free, but definitely also pushes back a very large army for Game Time. And Game Time doesn't have Hydras or doesn't have an infestation pit or anything else coming up behind this. In fact, losing a lot of those Ravagers was really painful as well. So that was a big investment for Game Time. He's got a good economy going for it in his favor, though, so he's got to make use of that. Hold off against the counter aggression now for Semper. Well, there's still a lot of roaches. Game Time was able to remax on them pretty quickly. Sitting up in supply, which is always deceptive with roaches. And actually, now that I look at, okay, there's 3 siege tanks out. All right, here they are, a little bit further back. It does leave this left angle a bit more exposed. Kind of funny enough, the top side where Game Time's trying to push into, Semper is most prepared for. Roaches trying to split up a little bit. Some corrosive vials going to be coming down, sniping off the medevac, but it's the siege tanks that reign supreme once again, pushing Game Time back. He keeps the Ravagers alive this time. He's trying to trade out okay, but GG gets called. He's up in supply. game time. Okay, there was a drop, it looks like. There was happening somewhere. Okay, Semper left, so I can't actually see it. That felt weird to me. I can understand if he was a little bit out of position, so he was losing some workers, but he was still up in supply. He had superior upgrades. I don't know if that was like an undoable game for game time. It would have been hard. Quiet Artanis. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Semper. Does take the 2-0 victory and moves on to the round of 8, where he's going to face off versus Pili Pili. Most likely the match that we're going to hop into. I believe that Masa versus Sanagi is still happening right now. Jon Snow versus True is most likely started up, as well as Namshar versus Cham. Well, possibly Jon Snow versus True. No. Jon Snow had a walkover, so your match was ready. Okay. But we're going to hop to a short break while we get things sorted out. I think that Oli Moli's, her internet is back. I see her online, so yes, we are good to go. And by the way, thank you to the Nidus. I know you were saying, like, hey, if I ever need help with admin work and stuff. Oli Moli is a fantastic admin. I think she just had a little bit of an internet hiccup. She's back in business and has been adminning EU Ladder Heroes as well as any Ladder Heroes. And it's just funny, like, it's not even so much that I needed another admin. It's just the fact that players, for some reason, will always message the commentator. Even if I tell them, like, every single time we do these monthly finals, I'm like, Oli Mola is the admin. I'll say that to them like 3 times, but then they'll message me like match results and like report scores and like ask about players and walkovers and stuff to me. I'm like, I'm casting. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a little bit. Please do not go anywhere.